We are now but double-digit hours away from the Kansas City Chiefs appearing in their 7th consecutive AFC Championship game. I have two big ideas, a position-by-position breakdown, phase-by-phase breakdown of the game, followed by a prediction for the final score. So, guys, you know what it is by this point in the season. Let's get into it. The number one big idea to take away from this is that the Kansas City Chiefs are one win away from appearing in their 5th Super Bowl of the Patrick Mahomes era. They are 2 wins away from their 4th title of the Patrick Mahomes reign. This is something which is incredible in the annals of sports, and the only thing stopping us from fully appreciating what this man has done in his few seasons in the NFL is the shadow of Tom Brady. Were it not for that one man, we have to recognize that what we would be looking at would already be the greatest quarterback in NFL history. To have done this through the few years that Patrick Mahomes has been in the NFL, plus you take into account, were it not for Tom Brady, the Chiefs would have gone to the Super Bowl the season that they lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game, and they would have likely won the Super Bowl that year. They would have likely won the Super Bowl that they played against anyone but Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Patrick Mahomes right now could be looking at 5 Super Bowl rings, approaching his 6th in 7 seasons as a starter. Were it not for that one man, Tom Brady, what it means to win 3 Super Bowls would still be automatic entry into conversation for the GOAT status. That is it. That is it. Were it not for Tom Brady, the Kansas City Chiefs would be already looking at the undisputed. The number 2 thing here is backing off a little bit, an interesting thing to think about from a fan perspective in general. Obviously, I am rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that is slightly different than rooting against the Buffalo Bills. So, for example, we all have to understand that losing the AFC Championship game is a possibility. Were the Bills to win the game, I would be rooting for them in the Super Bowl. Josh Allen getting a Super Bowl ring would not be the worst thing that could happen. Josh Allen getting a Super Bowl ring would not be the most disappointing thing that could happen. And I think that it would be interesting to be watching another guy in Josh Allen that is knocking on the door of the Hall of Fame if he gets that ring, right? On the NFC side of things, I am rooting for the Commanders. I am actively rooting against the Eagles. The Eagles winning the Super Bowl is the least entertaining outcome of any of the 4 teams remaining, in my opinion. So, just throwing that out there, I'm not sure that it means anything. It is just, if the Commanders were to win a Super Bowl, that would be more interesting than the Eagles. If the Bills were to win the Super Bowl, that would be more interesting than the Commanders. Were the Chiefs to win a Super Bowl, that would be the most interesting thing, period. So that is that. What about when the Chiefs run the ball? Well, the Chiefs were 22nd in the NFL with 105.3 rushing yards per game. The Bills were 12th in the NFL, allowing 115 rushing yards per game. These numbers here are fairly close. Kareem Hunt went 14 for 60 in their first meeting. That is a 4.3 yard average per carry. Not a bad game, but certainly nothing to write home about. The Bills this season do seem to be susceptible to big, strong, one-cut type runners. So, if I were making the call, I would go with Kareem in this game, as he did have marginal success the last time around, but I think that was towards the portion of the season where he was really starting to wear down a little bit. He has had some bye weeks recently. He has had some time to recover. He was not very thoroughly used last week. So, in my opinion, Kareem Hunt would be the best option to go with because he should be spry, or at least as spry as a weeble can wobble. The Chiefs will be going with Joe Thuney at left tackle, which means that the running game will be weaker than it would be with Joe Thuney at left guard. That interior of Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith is a very, maybe the best in football. When you take that to being Mike Caliendo, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith, it is a downgrade. Maybe not as big a downgrade as Joe Thuney being at left guard and some other somebody, whoever it might be, playing left tackle, but that downgrade in the running game could prove problematic here. What about when the Kansas City Chiefs pass the football? The Chiefs were 14th in the NFL with 222.4 yards passing per game. The Bills were 24th in the NFL, allowing 226.1 passing yards per game. Another pair of numbers that are very, very close to one another. This relative weakness against the pass for the Bills is a reason for concern if you are a Bills fan. Patrick Mahomes did not have a typical Patrick Mahomes season. He didn't have a bad year. Not compared to NFL standards. Patrick Mahomes has been getting better as the year progressed, not worse. So that 226.1 yards per game average given up is likely, in my opinion, to be eclipsed by the Chiefs' passing total in this game. Last time these two teams played each other, Xavier Worthy had a massive first quarter and then ran out of bounds before he secured the catch on a bomb from Mahomes when he was open, and he promptly disappeared after that. It is possible, in my opinion, that the Chiefs saw what they wanted to in these matchups, took advantage of them early, and then decided to put Worthy on ice a little bit. Knowing likely we're going to see the Bills in the postseason, it's going to be good to have some tricks up our sleeves by then. Worthy being one of those tricks. One way that we've seen teams get an edge on the Bills is to spread the ball around. I highlighted this in a video that I made earlier this week on the Bills' defense. The Bills do not have the cornerbacks that the Texans have. The Bills have good cornerbacks, but I would put the Texans' cornerbacks leap years above the Bills duo. So it might be in this game a little bit easier to spread the ball around than it was last week. Another thing that will make the passing game perhaps more explosive is that the Bills are likely to overcorrect against Travis Kelce because of what Kelce showed last week versus the Texans. They will add resources to trying to stop Travis Kelce, thus freeing up other targets. The Chiefs have the horses to use that to their advantage. For the Bills, Christian Benford is listed as questionable. When you start traveling down the Bills' depth chart, you find Cam Lewis, who has played 595 snaps this season. He's 5'9", 183 pounds, so he's undersized. He also ran a 4.51 40-yard dash, suboptimal for cornerbacks. Then you find Jamarcus Ingram, who has played 211 snaps this season and who runs a 4.6 40-yard dash. Should Christian Benford be unable to go, you will likely have one of these guys, likely Cam Lewis, on the field most of the time. Should you find Jamarcus Ingram and Cam Lewis on the field at the same time, you will have, more than likely, Hollywood Brown, who runs a 4.27 40, lined up against a guy who runs a 4.51 40, and Xavier Worthy, who runs a 4.21 40, lined up against a guy who runs a 4.6 flat. That should be a go route all the live long day. What about when the Bills have the ball and when the Bills run the ball? The Bills were 9th in the NFL with 127.4 rushing yards per game. They were 8th in the NFL. The Chiefs were 8th in the NFL, allowing 101.8 yards per game. So while the rankings are similar, the Bills were 9th in the NFL, the Chiefs were 8th against the run. The disparity in the number there shows you the emphasis in the NFL. Very few teams are able to run the ball very well, but the ones who do get outsized returns. For his part, James Cook had just 1,009 yards on the season. Now, it's a 1,000-yard season, that's not bad, but when you compare it to the 16 touchdowns he scored, and I think he added 2 more through the air, it's a very lopsided affair. So not the most yards, but they count on him in the red zone. How I think the Chiefs will counter this is run blitzes the moment you get inside the 20. When you factor in how shaky Nick Bolton looked against the pass last week, with the fact that Spags does love to blitz, plus the fact that Allen is probably too big to bring down by a cornerback, so you're not likely to see as many defensive back blitzes, I could imagine that we will see a lot of middle linebacker blitzes in this game. Nick Bolton through the A-gap, tons and tons. The last go-around, Cook ran the ball 9 times for 20 yards. 20 of that 1,009 yards was against the Chiefs. That's it. That was good for a 2.2 yard average per run. And Allen ran the ball 12 times for 55 yards. That's a 4.6 yard average. But if you take out Allen's long run, I think his average minus that one run, the one long touchdown run, was something like a 2.3 yard average. So it was overall a bad day for the Bills' rushing offense. I think the Chiefs want to make that happen again. They do not want the Bills feeling comfortable running the ball. They want to put everything on Josh Allen and then try to stop the pass. The obvious X factor here is Buffalo's fullback Josh Allen. How often does he decide to run? How quickly does he decide to run? And can anyone actually take him down in the backfield this time around? Should the Chiefs get a couple of sacks? Should the Chiefs make Josh Allen hesitate at all? It could be a good day for the Chiefs defense. What about when the Bills pass? The Bills were 9th in the NFL with 227.9 passing yards per game. The Chiefs were 18th in the NFL, allowing 218.8 passing yards per game. The Chiefs are very strong at defensive back positions. They were weaker in the pass rush, which allowed opposing quarterbacks more time, and they comparatively gave up more yards. They were worse against yardage than they gave up touchdowns. So bend but don't break type there. Last time, Allen went 27 of 40 for 262 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Not a monster day, but not a bad day. Khalil Shakir led the way for wide receivers for the Bills with 8 receptions for 70 yards. Curtis Samuel added 5 receptions for 58 yards and a touchdown. The Bills had 4 players go over 40 yards receiving on the day. They were spreading it out, and no one had a massive game. This time, the Chiefs return Charles Omenihu, a defensive end who is actually larger than Josh Allen. Not a whole lot of those around the league. I'm joking, obviously, but it seems that way when he's just pushing these guys around. They also have Jalen Watson this time around, a cornerback who does not often surrender the 158.3 quarterback rating when targeted that last time's cornerback number 2, Najee Johnson, did. So the dynamic will be a little different. You have seen me talk a couple times this week about the fact that you have now Trent McDuffie, who is going to be lining up against whoever the Bills want to deem their number 1 target, and you have Jalen Watson returning to that cornerback number 2 spot. He does not give up 100-plus rate quarterback ratings when targeted as often as does Najee Johnson. So things just from that standpoint will get a little bit more difficult for Josh Allen. You factor in that Charles Omenihu will be coming off of the edge, and that is in place of, for example, Mike Dana. And I think things get more interesting very, very quickly in favor of these Kansas City Chiefs. Prediction for this game, Kansas City Chiefs pull it off 27-24. The Chiefs will be going to their 5th Super Bowl of the Mahomes era. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on the channel, dropping multiple videos every single week, and I hope to have you back for the next one.